Hello, hello, everyone, and we're back. Today, we're talking about, I already forgot what we're talking about, honestly. Oh, karma.
It's a fun morning we're having here. Karma, actually, we'll talk about karma. I'm dealing with karma, which is probably everybody's thing. Even when we're more connected, I feel like we still have our list of to-dos, we'll say, with regards to karma. But let's start with our identification of karma. I know different people see it a little bit differently, and I know I see mine in ways that not everyone sees. So, what do you think of karma when people mention karma?
So, karma, in my mind, is just certain lessons that we came here to learn. That's what I feel karma is.
I
Because a
agree.
lot of the times people feel like karma is something that it's like a retribution of sorts.
Yeah,
Like, if you do something, oh, karma's gonna get you, right?
exactly.
I mean, I mean, you can look at it, I guess it's like a boomerang. If you throw something negative out, that's what will come back in. But that is also part of a lesson that you're here to learn, right? So maybe it does work as a boomerang. Don't know. But it's more, I'm just looking at it as lessons and experiences that you came here to experience.
Exactly.
Experiences that
Experience
you
is
came here to
experience.
experience.
Define it in a dictionary way. Use the same word. Anywho, karma, yes, I totally agree with you, is that it's about the lessons we want to figure out. And oftentimes there are more difficult karmas, which is something like, oh, if you hurt me, I hurt you back. But it's not gonna be like that. It's not, it's, it never is intentional going back around like that. It because you're not learning, you're creating more karma.
Mhm.
If you're trying to say, oh, well, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you, we hurt me. Oh, you start this war, I'm going to start this war. You're going to start this war, I'm going to start. So in the end, there's more karma, more lessons that come out of it. So yes, so we're in agreement with that. But yes, I come from an Asian background with a lot of growing up. I saw in the media more than anything about how karma was retribution, really, or it's good karma and bad karma. If you do good, you'll get good. If you do bad, you'll get bad. And some people just take it very literally, like what you will
Mhm.
get back. But a lot of times it's very subtle. In fact, Dolores Cannon has mentioned a lot of her actions would be very much like you are born in one life to, and if something happens, say you ended up murdering someone, the next life comes around is not that you will get murdered. Not necessarily, I mean, not that that might happen too, but it's more so that that person that you end up killing, you have to live with, you have to take care of, you have to find another way to learn to deal with the action that you ended up.
Mhm.
You don't want to do that same thing again. You end up learning something different. So
And
yeah,
for those who don't know who Dolores Cannon is, definitely YouTube that name. There's a bunch of videos with her, but Dolores Cannon is the one who came up with quantum healing hypnosis technique. Um, and that's what Carrie and I both do. So just putting it out there for those who don't know.
oftentimes, especially with her, it was about past life regressions.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's not so much past lives anymore. Not that you won't, but whatever you need, you will get. So it could be a past memory or a future potential to
Mhm.
guide us along. But yeah, she talked a lot about past lives, and that's where I was just pulling the little reference from.
Mm-hmm. But I do remember, so Dolores also wrote, I believe, about 17 or 18 books. They're based on her sessions with her clients. And I do remember reading what you just said, right? So if you kill, let's say if you kill someone in one lifetime, the next lifetime you will be taking care of them. And what's interesting is that you might not even feel or know this, right? But you will feel already extremely protective, extremely, drawn to that person. But that person, on the other hand, might not want anything to do with you.
Right, right. Or I had a recent client who was saying to me, like, I don't understand this relationship with my father. Like, we are so opposite of each other, but he had so many other children, and I'm the one who's like caretaking him at the end of his life. Like, why is that happening? And immediately I'm thinking, oh, well, there's probably something interesting happening in your past iterations to line up that way, or not necessarily, but yeah, there's things you can learn from each
Or
other.
maybe, yeah, maybe there's still some learning that needs to be done
Hmm.
between the two in order to, because remember, we're always learning from others and we're helping others. So it
Hmm.
could be that the parent needs to learn something and you're the one who can help them.
Right.
Right. And when I say help, it does not necessarily mean in the positive way, right? We automatically think helping, I'm going to take your hand and walk with you, right?
Supportive. Yeah.
Yes, it's not always like that because we as humans, the best way that we learn is through hardships.
Or tough love, yes.
So, um, so not intentional tough love because that's how it was for many years. But yes. So, or there's also, it's either you're there to teach your parents something, or they're still there that they want to teach you. So that contract has not finished yet. But that's a very interesting example, actually.
Well, let's address contracts then, since we got into the word contracts.
Yeah.
What is contract? What are we talking about here? Well, in our work and experience thus far, we have learned, and if you read Dolores's books as well, we learn that our lives is kind of pre-planned, not in the way that it's fated to the T, like nothing's written hard in stone or anything like that. But we do have an alignment that happens before we come here. There's a planning that we do. And oftentimes people will say, well, God just defined it all. But let me ask you, what do you think about that? Do you think God divined it all, or do you think there's other methods of design for our plans here?
It depends what kind of God we're talking about. Because in my mind, the word God is directly associated with religion.
Mm.
But if we're talking about the source, but again, it really doesn't matter, right?
What we label it, no.
what we label it. It's all how we perceive it within our mind.
Hmm.
Um, well, I do believe that the soul wanted to experience certain things,
Hmm.
but I have come through the sessions. They have been instances where just to quickly also add part of the session, QHHT session, we do past life regression, but our goal is to get to the higher self. So I have had instances where the higher self will come in and it will say that, well, I didn't want to come down here. Which is so weird for us, right? Because, you read many sources and you're like, oh, it's a choice, right? So, but that has happened a few times. I would say a couple of times, not that many. So it's hard to really answer the question whether who is it that makes the plan. I believe we get help, right? We get help from guides. We get help from, look at it as friends on the other side, right? Your soul friends. Oh, so who are like, oh my God, you want to experience this? Well, how about we do this? And I don't know, whatever it is that you want to experience. But we would like for you to remember the conscious mind does not remember any of this. The same way we talk about karma and lessons that you're here to learn, the conscious mind does not know those lessons. I mean, the higher self, the subconscious, however you want to call it, the soul, that's what knows the lessons, and that's why it's extremely important to connect to your higher self, right? And to balance, we talked about it last time, to balance it out, right? The conscious mind with the higher or the subconscious mind, right? You're balancing it out where you are in this conscious world where you have free will. That's Dolores she used to say Earth is a school,
Yep.
just
Yep.
one of many schools, right? So, but it is
That's
the
your
hardest.
perspective. If it's a kindergarten or a college, like some people align it with like a nursery school, or some people align it with an Ivy League school. So you really have to take it from perspective.
Maybe it's an Ivy League one. I think it's an Ivy League. Just because one, we forget everything,
Hmm.
but also we have free will. So the conscious mind has free will, and that free will is based on what? Basic, basic desires, or what we were, or cultural, right? Cultural beliefs, whatever it is, religious beliefs, right? So even though you internally feel like, well, I need to go this way, but the cultural belief or religious is like, oh, you can't go this way, you have to go around, right? And that's what makes us so uncomfortable and feel like we don't belong, or we don't like it here, whatever it is, right? I know, like we're going off the go off the topic, but yes, but you do have a written desire. I would say it's a desire, right, of what you want to learn, which would be your karmic lessons. Whether or not you learn them this lifetime is up to you. It's up to the conscious mind.
And even when we say learn them, there's no definite of what the lesson is and will be and should be necessarily. And the lessons, I see it that way as well. I see it as a list. Well, for the most part, I'm still along the lines of thinking that we do have a choice. Even when we say we don't on a certain level and we come here and we feel very, but I think ultimately there is an agreement of sorts of allowing ourselves to grow and allowing ourselves to be uncomfortable in the growth. But some people just are more sensitive than others for whatever reason. And that's on a soul level as well. It might be a little bit more challenging here. It's like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I want to do this. Or they come here thinking, oh, great, this is wonderful. But then they come and they're like, oh my gosh, what did I got myself into? This is a lot more challenging than we thought. That happens. But then again, we do that the same thing when we're taking a course or something. We go to college and we're like, hey, we're going to take this lesson. Oh, this is so much easier than I thought. Oh my gosh, this is so much harder than Well, that's how it is here. And I also feel like we have more control in our design of it all, even when we come here. Even if you say you don't want to, there is some planning of sorts to be like, these are the things that we're going to do. These are the alignments you're going to have, and you have all these friends, soul family, who wants to help you along, and you're helping them, and it's all energy in the end. So there's not as much divide as we see it when we come to do these things. But yeah, I think that what we have this list. I want to do this. I want to know these people. I want to feel certain things. This is a session I had with a friend, actually. It's when I started to develop more of my abilities to connect on the other side, connect to other people's higher selves and such. So my friend, and we'll probably address this later too about the physical and the alignment here, but my friend, I haven't talked to him a long time, and we connected, and he was telling me he has pain in his hips for a whole year where he couldn't sleep at all. So I thought I'd help him. And he knew exactly when it started. Something tragic happened in his family, and he put so much guilt on himself for it that all that guilt settled into his hips. So immediately he just couldn't resolve it. And for a whole year, he just could not sleep. So when I addressed it, a family member passed on, actually. So I was like, let's try to connect to this family member and see if they're okay. And because of what I do as a QHHT practitioner, I also have other questions that I ask, like, what did you come here for with regards to lessons, karmic lessons, or your purpose? And it was in a way really beautiful, but also super sad, because he came, the whole idea is he wanted to be in perpetual sadness, how it would be like to have a whole life in perpetual sadness. And I swear they designed it in such a way that there's no other way to describe his life. He was born into parents that were drug addicts. So my friend's family adopted him because to give him a better life. And but they were not equipped to take on an adoptee in that, have that much to deal with to help them and guide them. They had so many kids, so much life that they're doing, they just didn't have the time. And so inevitably he followed his biological family's track of drug abuse and alignment, and
Mhm.
had a girlfriend and had a baby through that experience. And my friend took it upon himself to, he was a sweet angel, really. He not only adopted that child to keep him in the family so that his father can be in his life at least, but like dealt with his drug abuse and tried to support him the whole time. So when the brother is a brother um is on the other side, he's like, I learned pretty much everything I wanted to learn from that. It went better than expected. My friend did more than he even needed to for the experience, and it went wonderfully.
So
And
hold on, you connected to the person who passed away.
the person that passed away, yeah.
Okay.
And
No.
he because it was in a session and I did it with my friend,
Mhm.
he immediately let go of his guilt because he
Mhm.
realized he is better on the other side, and he did more than he needed to, and it was not about him doing more. And he learned his own lesson that he did plenty well,
Mhm.
and releasing the guilt was also a lesson for him. And immediately that went away, and to this day there's no hip problems since.
Mhm. So that's where his all of his emotions set. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But, it just shows I was just awestricken by the design of it all, I say.
Mhm.
Like the way that it happened in the life, it was terrible. It was hard. I'm sure it was heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. But once you're over and on the other side of it, it's like, oh my gosh, imagine the strength that person had from the knowledge. So on a soul level,
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that's why we come here. Not to say that we're gonna all experience those types of really hard things, but we might.
I mean, we're all very different.
We're different.
It really, again, some lifetimes are easier just because you could have had previous lifetimes that were tough. The soul's
Yeah.
like, well, we're just gonna still come down. Because remember, we're here not only to learn the karmic lessons, but help others with those lessons, right? So you can be like, I'm just gonna come down, help out a couple of friends, right?
Mhm.
Like, because you might have been a buddy on the other side, right? But then you decide, you know what? I'm gonna be your mom to this time, and I'm gonna be, I don't know, I'm not gonna be that super loving to you, so you
Yeah,
can learn how to love yourself, just as an example, right?
exactly.
So I feel like that's a big one,
Yeah.
right? So and it's kind of okay, I'll come down, see what happens.
Mhm.
Let's chill. Like I can give you my example. I've always felt very like my father wasn't in my life, great guy, just was never in my life. But later on as I started learning, past lifetimes, that was the agreement. That was the agreement. And we've been friends in other lifetimes. That's why I think it was hard for me because we were good friends. We've been through stuff in previous lifetimes, but this lifetime, that's what we decided to do.
Mhm.
It's all good.
Yep.
No hard feelings.
Yeah, there's no hard feelings on the other side. That's the thing that is also interesting to know. All this karmic stuff that we do is really on this side of things. We might carry some hints of things along, but it's really once you're on the other side, it's not to say that we're clear of it. It's more of the perspective is different. We are not so drawn down in this experience, we'll say. And that's why it's kind of easy to be on the other side and be like, okay, I'm going to switch it up. This time we're just going to be acquaintance, or I'm just going to meet you on the subway one day and just for an hour. But
Yeah.
we had like 10 lifetimes before this, like it's that on the other side, we're still very connected. There's no, like, oh, well, I won't see you forever, we're together. But we forget that because we are in this physical body, and our conscious mind is, like we say, we created this forgetfulness for a purpose to experience.
Because it seems
So
like it's more fun if we forget everything.
I mean, if you knew everything, wouldn't it be kind of boring, right?
Would be, right? It would be because, and I noticed, and I don't know if it's the same in your mind, but I noticed that I had to change that way of thinking. But I had this idea that everything in this life has to be very good, like very only happy and like happy go lucky. I don't know where I had this idea growing up, and when something was happening, I'm like, "Ugh, when is this gonna be over? Because where's my happiness? Because it's supposed to be all happy." Whereas that's really resisting. That's resisting the lessons. That's resisting what is, and not looking at the emotions that those negative, right, experiences bring. Whereas those negative, I don't want to call them negative, but they're not pleasant at times, right? So, and whatever it is that comes up, the universe or you, however you want to call it, God, whatever you want it to call it, right? It's there for you to learn from, right? Not resist it happening, but accept it and be like, okay, what are the emotions that are coming up for me on this? And what is it that I need to see in me? Because everything that's around you, you are the one who's creating it. It's like there's a co-creation with other people because they help you out, right? But you, and when I say you, I don't mean you consciously, right? This is not on a conscious level. This is on a soul level, where it has been orchestrated a specific way in order for you to look at things. This is my favorite example, and I don't know, I might have shared this already. You're on the street and there's a homeless man and he literally spits at you. That's also a soul contract that was created, however you want to call it, karmic contract, right? It's also why? Because, well, it depends on what your reaction to it is. If your reaction is, well, how dare he? Because he's so below me, right? That's a perception that we have in our heads, right? So it triggering you. Why is it triggering you? Because you literally signed contract with that soul to do that. He doesn't know it consciously. He just felt like spitting at you. You don't know it consciously, right? So it's kind of like sit down for yourself and figure out what emotions it created in me, right? What's underneath those emotions and so on and so forth. To figure out why did this really happen.
Exactly. It's the karmic part is really, it doesn't have to be karma like so dire necessarily. It could be like little karmas, like little lessons in our lives, like
Mm-hmm.
a little, and it could be either a contract, a full-blown contract between a person, or the contract could be open-ended, like, oh, I'm going to be a conduit of something for that person when they need it. And spitting at you might have been what you're needed at the time for whatever reason. And our guidance, our support system, our support staff out there, they are helping us, or our higher self even. They're guiding different things to happen. Have you ever noticed that you have like sometimes in your life where things seem just to line up in a certain way, whether it's not necessarily good or bad, but a situation that happens and you're like, wow, it's like perfect for that situation for me for whatever reason. And I experienced something, either something that it was positively aligned or something that was terrible, right? And the lessons not are not all negative stuff. Like we talk about karma, we have this negative connotation with karma sometimes, and it's not all negative stuff. Some of it is beautiful light stuff that we're like learning about, how to stop and smell the roses, and seek joy and balance out those negative feelings so you can bring that up. So that's karma in itself as well. And it goes along with that. Well, we align with good and bad. But in the end, it's not good nor bad. It's just an experience that we're aiming for. So I think in the end, with karma, it's just another way to express why we're here. We're here to experience all the ranges, all the polarities that we've talked about, polarities. Um, if you haven't seen that one, click on the link below. If you haven't understood that we're here to experience all the ranges of feelings, all the ranges of separation, and how to be reunited again in different levels, and within us and without us, and all these things are all these karmic lessons in a way for us. So everyone has their own. No one's the same. It's like a fingerprint, everybody has a list of different things. One person might have a lesson about love and another person a lesson about trust issues, and they might not have either of the others. So it's okay. But yeah, to me, it's all about the lessons and experiences that we have, just like you said earlier.
And what happens if we continuously refusing to learn the lesson? It will repeat within this lifetime. So if you look at your life and you look back, you can see it especially very well with relationships, romantic relationships especially. And if you're looking back and you're like, okay, well, this person, as an example, this person cheated on me, then this person cheated on me, and this person cheated on me, and you're like, oh my God, right? The usual thing that humans us think, be you're female or male, it's like, oh my God, all men are cheaters, or men will think all women are bitches, and they cheat. But that's kind of blaming it on everyone else and not taking responsibility for yourself. Whereas the reason why you're going through the same experience is because you're still not learning the lesson. All of those people that you had those experiences with, even though they had different faces, they had different personalities, but the end result was still the same, right? It's just showing you that you need to look within yourself and be like, well, why is it that I'm reliving the same experience, the same relationships with different people over and over and over again? So it's kind of like the universe sends you one relationship and you didn't learn, and the universe is like, okay, well, let's try it again, right? They're going to send you another one and you're doing the same thing. You're not looking at what's not working for you, right? What's not working for you, because there was something within those relationships that you did not feel comfortable with, or did not look something, right? We're so used to not just overlooking things, just putting them on the back burner.
So the key is recognize your patterns in your life. The key is to really analyze the things that show up consistently, good or bad, just things that keep showing up for you. Just note that not everybody has those same patterns as you. There are some that do. I'm not saying you're alone in it, but if you notice a pattern, there's something to look into. If there is a pattern in your life, there's something to look into. And with regards to what our guides do for us, they will repeat things over and over again until we learn it. And we think we'll learn it at a certain point, and then but why is it still happening? Well, they also want to reinforce that we know what we learned. Sometimes we have a textbook knowledge and we don't really live it and be in it and know it. So that's another thing that can happen, is your karmic lessons will come back at you even after you're done with the lesson. And you might not have released the emotional attachment in our bodies with it. That's a whole different thing. Tangent. But it's also us as beings practicing. Like, okay, we learned this lesson. Let's make sure we got it. Let's get this clear and something to not worry about anymore. And also another thing to note is that once you do fully learn a lesson, there's sometimes you'll just have this amnesia effect. You'll forget you even had something major happen in your life. And that's because you don't need it anymore. Your conscious mind, your soul, it's like, okay, we're done with it. We don't need it. And one day you open a journal that you journal about it and you're like, oh my gosh, that happened to me. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh. Like that was so terrible in my life at the time. And I totally forgot about it. And that can happen. And that's just to show, really goes to show and proof to me that once we get our lessons, we move on.
Yeah.
Our soul doesn't hold on to things the way we think we hold on to things here. Once we can let go of anything and talk about contracts. This is one thing that is hard to understand at first, but you can literally remove any contract you've ever created. You can just rip it up in a metaphorical sense and not even have to worry about it if you choose to. And that is your prerogative to do. It's hard because we're trained and conditioned to hold on to things. So that's another aspect to ponder, I think, with regards to karma and your own lessons and the patterns that show up in your life. Um,
Well, let
I,
me ask you, what's a karmic wheel then? Because
karmic
that's
wheel is,
another thing that you hear, right? Oh,
yeah,
we're on this karmic wheel.
yeah. Well, I think of it in a personal level and, and then a collective level as well. Personal level, again, if you're not learning your lessons, you're gonna keep going over and over and over that, and you're not just yourself, it's you and then those around you, your peers will say, when it comes to you're giving a lesson for yourself, but you're also giving and getting from those around you. And and we end up being stuck in it sometimes. We just it'll go, and then one energy will bring you right back, and you do it until something is resolved, some clarity is understood, some real learning is done. Once you learn it, then there's no running of the wheel. And that's on all levels. It's not just individual, it's on a collective level as well. So yeah, what do you
So
have to say about that?
a lot of, oh, well, I would agree with you. I mean, but the karmic wheel does not necessarily only have to go from this lifetime, right? Because I believe people talk about it as a karmic wheel. So I've heard this idea and I believe it. That's why I'm calling it idea, because we can believe anything, whatever we want. So you don't have to believe it. I'm just gonna
Yes,
tell you.
disclaimer again. What we say, we're not trying to aim for you to believe. Take it as
Well,
you
yeah,
will.
take it if it resonates with you, take it. If it doesn't, that's absolutely fine. But there's this idea that I'm trying to think if this is going to bring us to a completely different topic. But the karmic wheel, my understanding is, yes, it's for this lifetime, but I feel like we also get on that wheel from not learning a specific lesson in previous lifetime.
Yeah.
So therefore, and there's no judgment on the other side. It's your experience. The soul is not going to judge itself and be like, "Oh my God, stupid me, I didn't learn it." No. It's just going to be like, "Well, okay, we're adding it in for the next lifetime," right? So, in the next, and that's the wheel of karma, where we are continuously from lifetime to lifetime not learning the same lesson. And it kind of, what happens is you get stuck in this school, right? It's like you're being left to repeat the grade. So, and what I have heard a lot is this lifetime is the time to stop that karmic wheel and move forward, right? So this is the time to learn that lesson you have, because I feel like where we are at this moment in time, even energetically, is so much easier, especially with the information that's out there, right? So it's so much easier to decide that, you know what, it's kind of like deciding to work on your inner world rather than focusing on the outer world, which is what our society always teaches us to do. Like, oh, look, there's a squirrel. But instead be like, okay, what is it inside of me is not making me feel, or is making me feel a specific way, and how do I deal with that? So that's kind of I guess my point is the time is now.
Now is the most important time, right?
Yes.
That's what we say.
So don't wait. Don't wait till whatever it is. Don't wait till, oh, I'm going to start in 2025, right? Or I'm going to start next week. Whatever it is, excuse that your conscious mind is telling you, don't listen. Do it now.
Yep, yep. Agreed, agreed. The karmic wheel lessons are less about, oh, how am I going to get $20,000 in my business or just $100 more for my rent next week? That in itself is not the lessons we're here for. It's behind it. Those are just end results. It's those little things that happen. It's the internal space of, where do you feel abundant? Do you feel in lack? Do you feel abundant? Do you feel, do you feel you're supported? Do you feel like you're not supporting enough of others? All these are more the lessons. These are the things that we're here for. Until we learn those, the outside stuff, even to the extent of like the problems in the world, like the environment and all these other things that are coming up, percolating from what used to be just conspiracies, now is like more awakened ideas. They're just like the result of the problems we have not looking into our issues and our lessons and in a chronic way. But not saying that we're wrong. I'm not judging. We're not judging. It's just that's where we were and we needed to be in that space. But now we're in a space that is very unique where we are more open to realizing our own power and responsibility within us to make our world different, and it starts within us. It starts within our work, our karmic issues. Then the more we do that, the more it expands out, and all these superficial things on the outside will resolve itself. Anyway, that goes a little bit a little bit extreme
Yes.
there in understanding,
Yes.
but
But I feel
overall,
like
yeah, work on it.
absolutely. And I feel like the biggest lesson that I see that the majority of us are living through is learning self-love.
Hmm.
And maybe I know, and that's could be like a topic of itself, like what
Yeah,
is self-love,
yeah, yeah.
right? Because that's huge. But you can start as easily as waking up in the morning and telling yourself that you love yourself.
Right.
How
You
hard is
can
that
go
one?
back to our recording about unconditional love.
Yes, yeah, right. Because for many people, like if ask yourself, how hard is it for you to tell yourself that you love yourself?
Right.
And for the most part, when I ask people, people are like, it's really hard. Why? Why is it so hard where you are the only person that you know the best, and you are the most important person for yourself. What ideas or your own ideas or something that was put into you that makes that not true for you, right? But that's a big one. I see it as like one of the biggest lessons that humanity's learning at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed. I think if we don't address that internal self-love so enough, a lot of these issues are stemmed from it. People who talk about narcissism and things like that, it's those people who are in that space actually not seeing themselves well or not feeling secure in their
Hmm.
experience. Those who
Yeah.
really do find that unconditional self-love, they radiate it outwardly because they know their value. They know their value internally on a mind, body, and soul level. It's a work
Hmm.
in progress for everyone. Even if you're there, you still have, undoing conditioning that we've done to ourselves. Because in culture, we're taught to downplay ourselves and put ourselves as unimportant, look externally for validation and the experts and whatnot. We're the expert of ourselves, and we need to believe that.
Because we're all very different. Like, we've all been grouped together. You need to all be the same. We can't be. We're very different. And let's acknowledge it, right? And just love ourselves for who we are. And therefore, we'll be able to love others because they're very different from us. We'll be able to love others for just the way they are, rather than trying to change them and make them comfortable for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, there's another topic for the day.
I know. And as usual, we start with one thing, but we put in so many different other things about karma.
I think we come back to it. I think we do. I think we're okay. You, as a viewer, please enter in the comments any karmic patterns that you're working on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And help each other, recognize and support each other here. And that's what we would hope you would do, and we'll try to chime in when we can as well. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your karmic journey.
Yeah, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the like button because, this way we know that you guys are enjoying our content. And if you want us to talk about a specific topic that interests you, put it in the comments as well, and we will definitely get to it.
All right.
It's always exciting to see what everyone else wants or what everyone else is going through. Yeah.
All right. Well, the next one that we're going to do, bump, will be another light and fluffy one. It will be
Very
about fear.
I don't know if it's light and fluffy though. I don't like light and fluffy. It's fear.
Yeah, well, that's what we talk.
Good one too. I love that one because I feel like a lot of us are at some point it's so human. It's just a human nature, and it's absolutely fine to have it. But we'll talk about that next time. So thank you all for joining and watching and supporting us. And we love doing this. And I guess even if you're not supporting us, we'll still be doing it.
Totally.
It's fun.
It's fun. How often do we talk about queer craziness, stuff like this? Not often. Not on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, all right. We'll see you all next week.
Yeah, we'll see you all
not next week. Next time.
next time, and have a beautiful day.